Good morning, everyone. Let's see if this live stream keeps going. The first one died out after a minute or so, so let's just hope it does. So first off, it looks like the Democratic Party is getting its act together. It is coalescing around the candidate that they have long thought had the best shot of beating Trump. This is, of course, Joe Biden. Um, he had a great Super Tuesday, probably far exceeded his expectations. And frankly, I think Joe Biden has one and only one reason for his success on Tuesday, and that is fear. Fear is a great motivator. The Democratic Party establishment, power players, power brokers, whatever you want to call them, I don't know any of them, but clearly, Bernie Sanders, the socialist, had them shook. They could see a future that if they let him get ahead by too much and had all the moderate votes split, that it would be too late. They did not want a contentious, I don't know what you call it at the end. Um, I don't follow politics all that much. Convention, Democratic convention. They didn't want to split votes, so they would have to, go to super delegates and all of that messiness, right? So they two or three people dropped out, and of course today, this morning, in the last 15 or 20 minutes, Michael Bloomberg has dropped out of the race, and of course endorsed Joe Biden. Uh, this just gives Joe more ammunition. Um, Bloomberg spent, by some accounts, $500 million trying to win the presidency because um, I don't think he did it for ego all that much. At least I never got that feeling. I think he did it because he was afraid of what might happen. And if you got $60 billion, what's $500 million, which is what his net worth is. So it's interesting. Now the question becomes, does Elizabeth Warren drop out and unite behind Bernie? If she does, and does it quickly, it could get interesting. But my suspicion is she won't, and they will continue to split votes on the extreme, and Joe Biden is going to walk, prance, jump for joy to the Democratic nomination. The reason I brought this up, the reason I talked about it last night was I believe a lot of the knee jerk reaction in the stock market, which most people have been blaming on the virus, the shock to supply and demand. I think some of it, and some of the extreme the 4,000 point drop last week was because for the first time, the stock market looked and said, oh my God, what are the American people doing? We could actually elect or at least nominate a socialist. They were very, very afraid. So they do what they do. They find a way out. And that is Joe Biden. People drop out and then they come after. One sec. I was trying to fight that off. It didn't work. So it looks like, we're going to have a cleaner kind of process from here. We're going to see what happens. I think I heard a quote yesterday. I think it's attributed to Biden. I didn't find it this morning, but this is from memory. Thank you. I appreciate that. America wants progress, not a revolution. And I think that's a pretty good quote. I certainly don't want a revolution. I certainly don't want to be led by a socialist. At least now we can have a real adult conversation about where we go in the next 4 years. And that's all I ever want is let's have an adult conversation about what's best for America and let's go forward. So, again, I'm not voicing one side or the other than saying I would never vote for a socialist. That's the only thing I've ever come out and said on this channel. Morning. So that's, I feel a lot better today. The sun feels a little better, got a little pep in my step, all because now it looks like the socialists have been put in the corner and said, stay there. And yeah, I think this is very good news for America, and let's hope that continues. And we will see. We'll see who ends up on the ticket, and we can have a real conversation about what is right. So pretty cool. I don't know if you saw this, but the payroll numbers for February were a blockbuster. They came in at 183 with an expectation of 155. So again, I see no chance that Q1 is a negative print, which is one of the numbers they need to have a recession call, right? You need to have negative growth. So it just can't happen. I think March is going to be very weak, but my hope is January and February we're kind of strong enough to bring us through maybe a sub 1% growth, but still positive. Which brings up the conversation about what do I think the chances of a declared recession are in 2020. So first off, let's realize that a recession is called most of the time in hindsight. So we won't know till Q4, Q1 of next year. But from my econ degree, what I remember is a recession is two negative growth quarters back to back. So okay, so we get through Q1, which I think is going to be a small number but positive. I absolutely think Q2 will be negative. It's going to start slow and it has a chance to get better on month 3, but I think Q2 is a terrible quarter. I don't know what else to tell you. But I can't sit here and think that Q3 is going to be all that bad. So I think Q1's a sub 1%. Q2 is -2, -2.5. Q3 is probably, I'm going to go positive, sub 1% again. And then I think Q4 is like a 4% or something. We're compressing a spring, and we are eventually going to let that energy go. One of the reasons for my confidence is what I see happening in China. And again, we all talk about how bad their numbers are and we don't trust them and all of that stuff, but you got to make some kind of intelligent estimates. And it looks like the impact of the virus, at least in being contagious in infections, has drastically slowed. Right? When you look at the chart, it goes parabolic and now it's kind of leveling off. That said, South Korea seems to be the hot spot and actually has been growing in numbers exceeding China for the last 3 days, I believe. Might have been 4 days. So by no means is the world out of the woods yet. It is still going to cause supply and, unfortunately, demand disruption. It's why I think Q2 will be negative. But it's also why I think Q3 will be a slight positive, hence avoiding the recession. I think the American economy is just too strong. I think we have this black swan event out of left field that's going to cause Americans to be afraid for a little while. I think in general, we aren't afraid very long. I think it still gets worse before it gets better, but I don't think you keep the American, and I don't think you keep the world, frankly, down that long. I think we figure it out. I think we see what's going on. Yeah. You are so right. Bloomberg spent $500 million. I was getting targeted, added by him on every social media platform. It's crazy. Yeah, I thought that was a great comment. Again, I think the world economy comes out of this. I think Q2 is weak. I think China. I think China has a pretty bad Q2. Q1 actually. China is probably a bad Q1. America is probably a bad Q2. But in the end, I think we come out of this just fine. I think that quote about wanting progress and not a revolution is true for the world, right? We're generally in a good spot. Yes, there are some problem areas, but let's get back to work, if you know what I mean. So that's pretty cool. Weekly refi rates, no shock here, up 26%. I think next week is going to be a monster number, right? Rates have come down even more, so that's interesting. The 10-year note below 1% again today. That does make me nervous. Makes me scratch my head a little bit. That's silly. But again, that's where we are. I know the powers that be that want the Fed to cut again. I certainly hope they're done. I mean, you're at 1 to 1.25 today. where are you going to take this thing? So, oh, Kevin, as I can't predict rates here or there. I can tell you that I hope the Fed doesn't cut anymore. Um, they need to save what little ammunition they have left for real problems. I don't think a monetary cut that they just did yesterday does anything except maybe make people feel better. Um, so if I'm starting some refinances now, if that tells you what I think, um, I think I think it's better to lock in now, close a deal. You may lose a couple of hundredths of a basis point by not catching the absolute bottom, but catching the absolute bottom is not the goal here. I can't. Yeah, I think the risk is the other way. So that's what I think. I think it was Kevin. Sorry if I messed that up. Um, did you see Italy? Italy again, kind of a hot spot. They're closing schools for a couple weeks. I bring that up because uh, I could see that happening in the U.S. They did it in China. They've done it in South Korea. Now they're doing it in Italy. So parents, right, of kids in school, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that we close schools for a couple of weeks, which is going to impact some parents and the like. So it's interesting. The rate cut yesterday got some funny quotes. This is the by far the best one. It was ill thought out and done to make people feel better. I thought that was interesting. The feel better was in quotes. Um, I bring that up because it's not the Fed's job to make us feel better. At least I never thought it was. Right? It's fight inflation and keep growth at a good level, preferably around 2%, if I remember their mandate. But it's not to make us feel better. That's I don't remember that being anywhere in the Fed mandate. Um, then there's the Robinhood app. Anybody here use the Robinhood app? Apparently, it was down all day Monday, which was, I think, a record up day. So if you were short or in a negative position, you got crushed. And I think it was down. It's either down yesterday or again down today, which they better figure that out because they're going to have a bunch of lawsuits coming their way, even if they're, um, signed waivers saying you can't hold us liable, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't stop people from suing you. So we'll see what happens. And again, the big thing I think that happens this week for me on the Democratic primary is does Elizabeth Warren drop out? I don't think she will. I think she's got the money and the will and the fight, um, which is only going to give Joe Biden a walk to the nomination because she's not taking Joe Biden vote. She's taking Bernie Sanders vote. So if she drops out this week, we're going to have a two-horse race between a socialist and Biden. If she stays in, Biden will have victory laps in a month or so. So that's what I think's going on. Last thing I want to talk about is if you're watching this, we are almost at 5,000 subscribers. I think I checked and we were 12 subscribers short. So if you're watching this and you're not yet a subscriber, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Let's get over 5,000 today. I think it's March 4th. That'd be a huge thank you to me for all this free content. Again, daily original content, typically 2 videos a day, if not more. So do me a favor, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, hit subscribed and let's get over 5,000. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.